sorry. I was thinking of the Sam Antonelli and his guitar playing. So I thought I'd pull out my axe since I was home and do a little playing. Sam, we're going to have to figure out a way to jam remotely, you know? Figure out something. Anyway. How are you all doing? I sent you a lecture 2 days ago, the first for this unit, Unit 3, in which we're going to be talking about research. I hope you were able to access that. Remember, you can always contact me through my email, which is john.tamilio, Tamilio, @gordon.edu. If you need to talk to me, you can call me as well, 913-909-6591. By now, you should have sent your papers to me and to Michelle. Once Michelle goes through them all and makes her comments, she'll forward those to me. I'll go through them, make my comments, give it a grade, send it back to you. So it's going to take a little bit of time, so I ask your patience, but you know, your first paper, as you saw, had a whole bunch of comments on them. Not just from Michelle, but I gave you sort of like a page of single-spaced comments along with the grade. So I like to put that much time into your work because, as I've said before, it's the best way for me to communicate with you one-on-one. Anyway, on our Blackboard page, I have posted the prompt, the assignment sheet, if you will, for the third project in the course. I'm going to go through it right now to add some comments. So as I'm doing this, you may want to pull it up, take some notes yourself. Again, it's on the main tab of the Blackboard page. So take a look at that. Also, you should be going through Roadmap to Research, which is on our Blackboard page as well. Anyway, writing project number 3, using research to think towards sustainable communities. Here's the assignment overview. In the last essay, Essay 2, the one you just handed in, you had the opportunity to think specifically about how one of the texts from Unit 2 might inform a conversation about an issue or problem in one of your communities. From this writing project, you will also be addressing an issue relevant to a community you know. Any community. It can be, you know, the town you're from. It could be your church community. It could be your Gordon College community. This time, however, you're going to use the research project to dig deeper into the academic conversations that could inform your interested community members thinking about the issue. Talked a little bit about this last time, the difference between qualitative and quantitative research. Qualitative research enables you to really dig deep into a particular issue, and you're going to be doing that this time, digging into an issue that would be of interest to the community you're going to pick. You will begin by developing a focused research question, locating sources to help you answer that question, and compiling a research notebook. Then, originally, the plan was you would present your research to the class for feedback as a step towards building a compelling argument. Hopefully we'll be face-to-face again this semester so that you can do that type of presentation. The more I hear on the news, it doesn't sound like that's going to be the case. I don't know. I'm not in charge of the schedule for Gordon, so don't quote me on this. But it's looking to me less and less likely that we will be together. So we'll have to come up with some other way of you presenting your research. What I'll probably have you do is make a video. And you can just do it with your iPhone. Post it online on YouTube or something like that. And your classmates will view it and offer you feedback. All right, so that's probably how we're going to have to do it. I'll talk more about that later, though. Don't worry about that just yet. This project overall is going to culminate in a persuasive essay that uses evidence that you gathered from your research to assemble an answer to your research question for the audience who could benefit from the information you've gathered. Now, this is a substantive part of your grade for the course. I mean, the entire project is a third of your grade, so I really want you to think about this carefully. Think about your question. Make sure you hone it down. It shouldn't be too broad. It has to be something that you could complete in an assignment such as this. Not too narrow that you could answer it in a paragraph, but not too broad that you'd need, 30 pages to answer it. That's not what we're looking for here. Anyway, talk about that in a minute. Goals for this assignment. This project invites you to practice working in the mode of an independent researcher, investigating a problem that you care about and digging deeply into the vast array of information that might help you understand it better. The problem could be anything. It could be racism, which we've talked about already in the class. It could be the environmental problem. It could be what's going on right now, the COVID-19 virus and some of the crises that it is causing, unemployment. There already is, and there's going to be more of an economic problem related to that. Or maybe you want to write about the opioid crisis or bullying, or there's any number of things that you could talk about. Immigration, the oppression of women in our society. The readings in this unit will help you see how writers use research to explore persistent problems and present information to a general audience. You will familiarize yourself with library resources. We talked before about how this roadmap to research project you're going to be doing, which is an independent project by and large. Again, the link is on Blackboard. Erica Street in the past has come to class. She's a phenomenal resource, one of our librarians. She comes to class and does a presentation on using different databases and resources we have available through our library at Gordon College. She may not be able to come to class, so I don't know if she's going to do a virtual tour, something on video or what have you. But you're going to be familiarized with various resources in our library. You're going to locate information that I want you to think carefully about and critically about. Where does it come from? How credible is that information? You have to engage in critical reading. Practice building an argument using evidence from the information that you're going to gather. You're also going to practice the skills essential to civil discourse by working to persuade others without alienating them. So often in our culture, when we present an argument, we alienate the other, those who disagree with us. I really want you to work on building the type of argument that respects the other, that takes their ideas into account. You don't have to agree with them, but it's not about belittling or demoralizing those who disagree with you. It's about civil discourse. It's about persuading others with a very astute critical argument without making them feel alienated. Broadly speaking, this process is designed to facilitate the kind of thinking and writing that our communities so desperately need. Diagnosing what is broken and using academic inquiry to come up with creative ways of facilitating healing, restoration, and kingdom building through argument. Some of the assignment details. Now, this is going to be an assignment that occurs in parts, and I want you to be working on this sort of right away. I really want you to be thinking of a question that you can explore, and it will manifest itself in this project overall. The assignment's going to proceed in stages, and the best thing you can do for yourself as a researcher is to work through each step of the process diligently. You will refine your thinking and deepen your understanding through each phase of investigation, writing, and revision. I have found myself as a scholar that when I start doing research, I enter the research process with a question, right? It's a question I want to answer. And I'm looking through scholarly material to come up with an answer to that question. And I sometimes find that the research process itself changes the question, okay? Be aware of that phenomenon, right? Be aware of allowing that to happen. The research process itself might challenge you in such a way that you have to change your question because your question is different than what you originally thought. Anyway, part one of the project is the research notebook. The first part of the project, you're going to identify a local community that you know well. Again, your church, your hometown, your college campus. It could be any number of communities that you know well. And I want you to think about the barriers, the specific barriers that group faces to a sustainable community where human flourishing is the norm. Again, think about that word shalom we've talked about. How shalom, the Hebrew word shalom, doesn't just mean peace. It means wholeness, completeness. So what are the barriers that exist in our community? Maybe right on our campus here at Gordon College, maybe there's a barrier you feel that's in place that prevents sustainable community from happening in some way. From the shalom, the peace that God intends for us. Think of it that way. You know, what does God intend for us to be as communities, right? What stands in the way of that? You're going to develop a research question that will help you better understand and investigate one of those barriers, okay? In your notebook that you're going to be keeping, you'll start by identifying your question and begin to explain how you chose it and why. Why is this question of interest to you? A footnote here. Any research project you ever have to do, unless you're given a specific question by a professor, if you're given some freedom, pick something you want to write about. It just makes it that much more interesting. You'll have more to say. You'll feel more invested in the entire project. You know, when you do something you have to do that you don't want to do, it's not fun, right? And you're not going to put your heart into it. So you have a lot of leeway here. So pick something that interests you. Why did you pick it? Why did you pick that topic? Then you need to locate sources that are going to help you answer the question and create a set of notes from those sources. Now, those sources are going to vary depending on your question and depending on the context, your community, right? What types of sources you need to answer your question depends on the question. So keep that in mind as you do your research. And as I said last time, you know, you're not going to be, at least at this point, you're limited in terms of how much you can use libraries, whether it's the library on campus or a library in your community or another university's library. You're going to be limited. So a lot of the work you're going to have to do, the research, is going to be online. And last time, in the last lecture, I spoke at length about making sure that those sources are reputable. So refer back to that because I'm not, you don't need me to repeat that right now. The second part of the project is going to be a presentation. Now, hopefully we'll be able to do this in person. If not, I'm going to have you record a presentation. It's only 5 minutes, okay? It's a 5-minute presentation in which you present your findings, which you have discovered so far through your research, to your classmates. And, you'll talk through the information that you've read, and you're going to solicit feedback from your classmates so they can help you think through your question from multiple perspectives. So what I'm going to ask the rest of you to do when you are watching your classmates' presentations, compose an email and send it to that person with feedback on their presentation. You may have some insight into some of these questions that other people are asking. Offer it. As I always say when I correct your papers, I look at what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and I offer suggestions for improvement. Okay, that's the type of critical feedback you need to do academic writing. I seek it myself with my own articles. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Where can I improve? So as you hear one another's presentations, whether they're in person or on video, provide that type of feedback via email. Again, I'm going to talk more about that probably next week as we start thinking about and setting up when we're going to do these presentations. The final part of the project, the third part, is the culmination of it all. It's the persuasive research essay. In the culminating essay for this project, you're going to articulate a position in response to your research question, and you're going to support it with information from your sources. Your essay will need to describe the problem, the puzzle, or conflict at stake in your question, present the reader with relevant background information, and use specific information from your research to produce a well-supported argument in response to your research question. Not everything you gather you're going to use. Okay, part of the research process is sifting through all the information you gather to find the relevant information, the most powerful information. Your audience for your argument is the group of people who most need to know what you discover. In other words, your community. And you should write especially for those most likely to be skeptical of your conclusions, because it is a persuasive essay. You're trying to convince those who may not agree with you. You know, think for example of the environmental crisis. There's a whole bunch of people out there that think that this is just a ruse, right? That it's not real. Well, how would you convince them that it is real? What kind of information would you need to convince them that it's real? Anyway, the entire length of this paper is 6 to 8 pages, double space. Again, 1-inch margins using a standard 12-point font like Times New Roman. Not too long, okay? It may seem it, but it really isn't. You have to hit the ground running. There's a lot of ground you have to cover, and 6 to 8 pages is not a lot of area to unpack that. So you can't, don't as that old saying goes, don't bite off more than you can chew. Make sure you hone your question down so that it's clear enough and it's doable, right? It's one you can answer in a paper of this length. Criteria for evaluation. To be successful, your research, your persuasive essay should have the following. First of all, a clear description of the issue and relevant background/context information. 2, a well-built argument, a clear, focused thesis, well-supported and well-thought-out points in support of that thesis, and thoughtful consideration of potential objections or counterarguments. 3rd, careful and thorough research, evidence of a thorough investigation of your research question, demonstrated by thoughtful integration of appropriate source material into your own writing. 4, ethical treatment of sources through appropriate MLA citation. I'm going to provide you with a handout that gives you a lot of great information on this. Also, if you go to the website by Purdue University, Purdue OWL Online Writing Laboratory, I think it stands for. We've talked about this website in class before. Just Google Purdue OWL and it will come up. And if you go to that site, it has a whole section on the MLA method of parenthetical citation. I'm going to provide you with information as well, but you're going to use the MLA method, including source tags, parenthetical references, and a properly formatted works cited page. Keep in mind that in other classes you take, you may not use the MLA method. You may use the APA method or the Chicago Manual of Style. For most of your liberal arts classes, though, classes in English, classes in philosophy, classes in history, you're more likely than not going to be using the MLA method. So it's a good one to know. I just mention this because if you have to write a paper, a research paper, for example, for a psychology class, you're probably not going to be using the MLA method. You'll probably use the APA method, but we're going to be using the MLA method. Next, a purposeful organization. You have to have unified paragraphs, strong transitions, and a carefully controlled overall structure that builds your argument. You want your prose to be error-free and clear, correct grammar, spelling, and punctuation errors, sentence structure errors, awkward diction. We've talked about diction quite a bit in this class. Diction referring to, as you know, word choice and order. You're probably getting sick of hearing me say that. Word choice and order, but it is crucial. It really makes the difference between good writing and great writing. And, this academic writing it requires that. It demands that of you. A couple things I want you to be doing from now until next time. I'll do another lecture Friday. And I want to figure out a way for us to have some discussion. So hopefully you all have access to Zoom, the program Zoom. It would be good if we could have a virtual discussion where we can see one another. In the TGC reader, there's an article by Duffy called Virtuous Arguments. Make sure you read that. Read the introduction and the first couple chapters in They Say, I Say. Begin brainstorming, thinking about what you want to write about. Start, if you haven't already, doing the roadmap to research project. There's a link on our Blackboard page for that. So get started reading those things and start brainstorming, writing down some ideas. If you want to bounce some ideas off of me or my teaching assistant, Michelle, feel free to do that. You can contact us by email or phone and run some ideas by you, and we can help you narrow those ideas if they're too broad, or develop them if they're too narrow. So be thinking about which context you're going to write about, who you're going to address, and the barrier that stands in the way from that being a community based on wholeness, on shalom. So that's it for now. I'm going to email you some more information. On Blackboard, I posted much of what I talked about today, this assignment 3. So make sure you look at that. Make sure your papers are in to Michelle and to me. And that's it for now, I think. I'm waiting for Sam to send me him playing guitar. You heard me doing a little bit. Need to hear from you, Sam. And the rest of you, if you are so musically inclined. So stay safe. Wash your hands, do the social distancing thing you're supposed to do, 6 feet away from everybody. I don't think we're through the height of this yet by any means. So just be smart, be wise, be safe, and may God continue to bless each and every one of you. Take care. I will see you soon. I'll see you on Friday.